Won't somebody think of the landlords? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, and I want to talk about an article from Yahoo Finance. This one's an interesting one. It's about landlords having it harder than people expect. Tough times for landlords. Because honestly, property is a religion in this country, okay? We can all accept that. There's another story I saw on the news. I don't even know if I'll cover it and talk about it, about an immigrant who came to Australia and now he has a portfolio of 12 properties, working bloody hard and, of course, riding the equity train all the way up to it. But here's the thing. People get into property and they make decent money, hopefully, on capital gains. But what about the rental return? You got a trickle of money coming in there. How good is that? And then you've got all the costs and the maintenance issues. You've got to deal with clients. You've got to deal with, you've got to deal with tenants. You've got to deal with real estate agents. All of these things come together to just add to the stress of it. And the argument they're making here is that, well, there could be smarter things people could be doing. But, well, the counter to that is the banks are really happy to just hand out the cash for residential investment. And it's going to be cheaper than other things you can invest in. But still, let's check this one out, guys. So, landlords are having a harder time than we think. Everyone loves bashing landlords in Australia. But they're providing a service to people. They're providing houses. That's the reality of it. Not everyone wants to be living in government-controlled housing. Look at what happened in Melbourne, guys. So all of you that are clamoring, we need more social housing, yeah, then they can lock you up if they want. So, landlords would actually have been better off investing in their superannuation than an investment property, new research suggests. Yes, but the problem with super is you can't get access to it. Or what about if they invest in their super and use that to buy a property? But we'll have to see. I wonder if this was funded by the super organizations. The rental crisis has put unprecedented pressure on tenants, but landlords are apparently also getting the raw end of the deal. Especially the Aussie property system isn't working for anyone, new research suggests. I know the place we're renting, they've upped the rent again, but I mean, in the short time that we've been there, they've had to clear out everything under the house because the previous occupants were apparently hoarders, and there was still a whole lot of rubbish underneath the actual house in the undercroft area. And I don't think the previous tenants realized that was a fire risk or a vermin risk, so they didn't tell the real estate agent. And then they've had to do a whole lot of maintenance on the building with the gutters overflowing, pipes rusted. And now I think there's some serious structural issues. There's all this cracking where there's different footing settlement in the middle of the building. And now all the electrics in the bathroom has stopped working. So, yeah, there's a lot of ongoing costs for a rental property that landlords have to pay. And honestly, I think this one, they're just going to keep it and milk it and then demolish it. So let's keep going. Although, I'm honestly surprised, the place that sold for $1.3 million at the end of my street, which is insane, everyone, that price in this area, they're not demolishing. We thought they'd demolish it and maybe try and rezone it for a childcare or something like that for that money, because it's a decent-sized block. No, they're keeping it. They're renovating it. And this was a house where a car had driven into the bottom of it and done a whole lot of damage, and apparently the person in the car had no insurance, so the owner was, I'm just getting out. So they bought it for the land, but they're keeping the house. So I guess they're land banking. But anyway, back to this. Renters face fierce competition for leases and poor tenure security when they do find one, the PEXA and Longview research paper on private renting said. Meanwhile, up to 2/3 of landlords get poorer financial returns than if they had invested in super, alongside property management headaches and unexpected maintenance costs. I mean, there you go. I mean, here's a question for the viewers who are landlords. Is it worth it? I know we've got one regular who has some property down in Tasmania. He built some houses and he's renting them out. And that's probably a lot easier to manage. But I mean, share your horror story, guys. Is it worth it? If you could borrow, here's the real question. If you could borrow the same amount of money you used to buy or build a property at the same interest rate and stick it in a real estate investment trust or an exchange traded fund that just follows the market, would you do that? Or borrow it and stick it in your super and retire? It's the capital growth. It's the capital growth, I think, that everyone loves in property here in Australia. So the research found most landlords only held 1 or 2 investment properties, and those landlords only held onto these investments for around 5 years, adding to the constant movement and distress in the rental market. Now, that's surprising. Honestly, I thought when you're buying property, you're holding onto it for the long term because, well, the cost of getting in and out of a property it's bloody expensive. You've got to pay all these real estate fees, legal fees, stamp duty, all of this stuff. Well, maybe if this is just a recent paper, this is all the people that sold out at the peak. I mean, that genuinely surprises me. I thought property would be something you buy and sit on. The current model of individual property investment is much more involved and complex than many expect, the report said. Contrary to popular opinion, property is a highly variable form of investment, particularly when funded with mortgages. Despite this additional effort and risk, the overall median post-tax return on rental properties is often poorer than alternative low-effort investments. I like those low-effort investments, but the one big issue with property is people love to negative gear them because we're taxed to the moon here in Australia. I can't even afford a beard. We're taxed that much. So there you go. You know, that beard tax, I shouldn't even be joking because it might become a reality, mightn't it? So invest in your super, not property. But then you don't have control over it. If it's in your super and now if there's an emergency, the treasurer wants to limit your ability to access it. So yeah, I could see why people would much rather put it in a property, negative gear it to reduce their tax, and maybe the returns aren't as good as super. But if they want to sell it and need the money, they don't need to go begging to their super fund to get access to their own money. So yeah, I completely understand why people would rather have control over their money than give it to a third party. The research said compared to other investments, property investments required very active involvement. Many investors have misconceptions about the effort required when they enter the market. Many landlords would be better off investing in superannuation than property, it said. The research compared the actual returns received by property investors based on real property price growth data from 1990 to 2020, assuming the property investor held onto the property for between 4 and 10 years. While some investors have done very well financially, others have had poor returns. You want to bet the ones that have done well financially have been the ones that have just ridden out the market and stayed in it the longest. In contrast, I'm surprised that the tenure, the time they're holding onto their investment is so short, 5 years. Maybe they're just going in, sitting on it, selling it, making a quick, cool 100, 200 grand, depending on the property. In contrast, balanced funds held within superannuation have historically delivered a 7.4% post-tax return. Yeah, but you can't use the money until you're an old fart. So who cares? There are people that want to stop you accessing your superannuation for palliative care. Can you believe that? This is Australia. It's such a bullshit nanny state in all ways, isn't it? Bunch of Karens don't want you to have palliative care. You need to save it for retirement. Probably so the government can take the nice slice out of it. Anyway, more than 1% higher than property, the report said. Okay, there you go. So you're copping a 1% hit, but you don't have a property that you can use. Not only this, but the diversification of superannuation across many assets and asset classes has made it less risky than investing in 1 or 2 properties in terms of return variability. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but you can also do that by just investing in some low-effort exchange-traded funds, can't you? The research found that up to 60% of landlords would have been better off financially by putting their money into balanced superannuation funds. So, well, let's have a bit of a talk about this one, guys. So there you go. Keep away from property. Ooh, scary. Get into the super funds. Let the banks and the unions have control over your money. I don't know, guys. I can see where they're coming from, But I can also appreciate the fact that people want to keep control of their cash or their assets. Okay? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. And are you surprised that investors are holding onto property for that short a time? Anyway, hang on. Nope. Okay. Topic change, yeah. You can get Warhammer 40,000 Gladius free on Epic today. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, Heise BIM and Heise Does. And if you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, you can support the channel via YouTube or Patreon financially using our referral links, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, have a great day, and I will see you all in the next episode of HeiseSays. Bye for now.